5:30, I believe, on computers and everything else. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. And I invite those who are willing and able to stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Microphones.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Forgot. It was on. All right. Do you want to say a few things before we?
Well, yeah, before we get to the agenda and approval of it, I guess I feel bad that we have so many additions to the agenda, but a number of things came up in the policies. We went through policy committee, they met last week, and so we added those. So it looks like a really long list and ends up being some things that happened, so hope you're not upset that we've got all of these things added on, but sometimes they come on and we just got to put them on here and so that they're taken care of. The other thing is that Kevin Paulson was planning to come, and I don't know if he is coming. We'll leave it in the agenda where it is, but I do ask that item 8.1, the tennis court lease purchase resolution, when he does come, if we can move that up, if he comes. I told him it wasn't absolutely necessary, but I think he just wants to make sure that we follow through on everything. And so if that is, he's got another meeting, and if we could move that up and finish our discussion item and then take care of that so he can get on his way, would appreciate that too. So that was the only things I had for the agenda, I believe.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Pals. Any other discussion on that? Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda as is signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, moving on to number 4. Community? No. Hi, Kyle. Welcome. Let's go to number 5, the consent agenda. I'm going to add a few.
Yes, item 5.4.8, Tanya Zek's contract that was approved by the negotiations committee and brought forward to the board for her approval. It's a 2-year contract. Also, just to remind, Mr. Skelhouse's contract was a change for some extended days. He had a 6th assignment, and I questioned what class he was teaching, and I didn't want to have the contract use 6th assignments for things if you're not teaching a 6th class. So that was why that was change was made. And then I should also note that the 3 teachers we have that are moving on, Jackie Hess taught for the district for 20 years, so thank her for her service. She's got a position up in her town where she lives in Tyler, so she'll be teaching up there. Steve Rops taught for the district for 13 years, and he's going to the Blue Mound Alternative Center, working out there, which is a special education program. So a great opportunity for him, and thank him. And then Mr. Boomgarden has taken a job with Minnesota West and working with farmers in the ag area. He taught here for 4 years after about 30 years in education, did a really nice job with FFA and ag. So they are all, I guess we appreciate their years of service.
That's
not
nice.
late.
All right, so first, let me ask, are there any consent agenda items that you would like removed so we can discuss them individually? Anyone? All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Botts. Is that, okay? Sorry, Randy, I didn't know if it's, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Any other discussion on that? Any other thoughts? Any discussion? Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to number 6, administrative reports and information. 6.1, admin, a review of budget year to date.
We're We're currently at 94%. Last year at this time, we're at 93%. Everything looks good. I may prepare one more for fiscal year 17 next month. And then in September, I should be able to do one for fiscal year 18. Can't do one for 18 until I close the books for 17.
Thank you.
And we'll be having audit when does that happen, or when's it supposed to happen?
August, September, October, November.
We usually get it in late October, right? But,
Usually the audit report is presented in November.
okay,
Last year it was December.
but we're gonna have an
That
audit.
comes
so
to my mind when we,
Yes, we're gonna have an audit.
Good.
Thank you, Jackie.
So,
Any questions for Jackie? No, we're good. All right, let's move on to 6.2, school board members. Any committees have any thoughts or things to share?
Policy and negotiations are the only ones that I think have met here this month.
Looks like policy was busy.
yeah. Yeah, those are coming up.
Yep, those are coming up. Looks like
Deb
you were
loves
busy.
putting these lists together. She's going, holy cow, look at this. I'm gonna get you guys, she's the taskmaster on that.
The negotiations did meet, we did get a few items off the plate that are settled, and, big thing is still language on, a couple of small items, but it's going to be where we end up putting the money and how much. We've thrown a couple proposals out, they've thrown a couple back, but we haven't moved very far on the money issue right now.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other reports from school board members? All right, 6.3, superintendent.
I guess I just, the summer, starting to gear up for getting ready for the school year. So I have my August administrative meetings, working on getting those where we'll start out and kind of get things ready for the year and make those final plans right before school gets started. There's also a MDE, Minnesota Department of Education Conference, August 8th and 9th, which we're bringing a team down. This is the new Every Student Succeeds Act is coming into play. The state of Minnesota has put together its proposal for that. So they've really asked the superintendents and curriculum leaders and principals to come. So we're planning to all go down there and really kind of find out what they're looking at with this new ESSA, E-S-S-A. So we'll be learning about that on those 2 days. And then from there, we start getting our data and we'll start putting together reports for the board and for our teachers and for the community on where we're at with our achievement and things. So that's kind of coming up. Tennis court project, they've started, broken ground, and things are moving there on that. So they were about the only ones in the area who didn't like to see the rain, but I think everybody else said, no, we can take that, and we'll take a little, few days delay because of a little rain for tennis. Well, that's fine. Last Monday, we had the Grow Our Own Community Conversation. Had about 30 people there, so it was a really nice turnout. Just kind of started those initial introductions and talking about Pipestone and where that's at. And we have a second meeting on August 17th, and that's at 6:30 p.m. down at the Hiawatha Lodge. I know that one of our tasks was to bring some people to the meeting, so I'm going to be trying to pull together kind of the school delegation, some of our counselors, early childhood teachers, our administrators. We really want to have, I'd like to have about 10 people, because when they break out, it'd be good to have a school person at each one of the tables. I would like to have at least one board member. I think Wendy will try, but if anybody else, I mean, most certainly feel free to come to that. But I think we're going to try to pull together people in the community, from business leaders to social services, and the conversation is really about our kids and poverty, and what are some things maybe that we would like to do here in Pipestone, and since we're the school, this is where all the kids are at, so we kind of become a focus. So, but that doesn't mean we have the ideas or anything's going to be put on us. It's really a community community conversation and a community initiative, sponsored by Southwest Initiative Foundation. So excited about the opportunity there. I was a little nervous, wondering if anybody was going to come, but the numbers we had were good. So it was great to see those in the community that were interested and care about our kids. So that was pretty much what I have down in my report for this month. So still trying to take some time off. Haven't taken off a lot of days.
We encourage
I'll
that.
figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'm just going right now, so.
We need your help, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
All right, any questions for Superintendent Enerson? No? All right, let's move on to number 7, old business, 7.1, second reading of crisis management plan.
Again, we spent time, had about 5-6 meetings over the last school year, and just updated and refreshed the crisis plan, put in those ALICE training type language and those things in there. And then I also, from that, we decided that we needed to have our PA systems at Brown and Hill, so those things were put in. And we had, I think I mentioned, we had a bunch of community. We also had the school safety specialist from the state of Minnesota was out, and we worked with the county emergency. Steve Ewing was in on those meetings, so feel pretty good about what we have for our crisis management plan. I think it was pretty solid before, but it's always good to review these things, so. But that's set to go.
Anyone have any questions on that policy after looking it over? No? No questions? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the crisis management plan as is?
So moved. Second. Sorry. That's
Thank you,
good.
Mrs.
That's
Tauber,
delayed.
and thank you, Mrs. Weiss. So a motion by Tammy and a second by Katie. Okay? All right, got you. Just making sure, yes. Any other discussion on that? Any other questions or discussion? Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the crisis management plan signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to number 8, new business, 8.1.
Well, come, Paulson's not here, so we're moving ahead with
Mr.
it.
Paulson is not here.
But it's on our agenda, we're already here, so.
Kevin, where are you?
One thing maybe before we go into this, resolutions and reading them, I've done some checking, and Deb, we call them SBA. They do not have to be read in full. And especially when, if you notice some of these resolutions that we have, that was why I really started to inquire into that. What we need is the resolutions need to be available for the public to see. We have them here. All of you have them. And I would just soon you guys concentrate on thinking and hearing what's being said and not worried about how you're going to read this, and because it's lawyer language. I think what we'll do is either Deb or myself will read a resolution, what the language of the resolution, and go through, make sure that you understand what this all means, and then go forward with it. Deb will put in the names in the boxes like you're supposed to. It does have to be a roll call vote, so we should practice that tonight. Chairperson Schoolmeister should call everybody either by their last name. I don't know how you formally want to do that, but you should call each person, and it's a yes, no, or abstain in your vote, which should be read aloud and taken aloud. So that's probably how we can handle resolutions. I know when we get to the operating levy, I just made a PowerPoint on that resolution, so we'll go through that and everything that's in there I put together and a few other things. But this first one, if we want to go into that now.
Sure.
Basically, this resolution relates to the lease purchase of the tennis courts, providing for the financing thereof and authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease purchase agreement and approving and authorizing execution of the related documents. And this is just all formality. Springstead and the finance company have taken care of this, just so you know. This is in the amount of $790,000 for the tennis courts and all of the things there that go along with that. So these are the agreements, ground lease, closing documents, and all of that Basically, once this is approved, we send it in tomorrow morning, and they're gonna put a bunch of money in our account. Jackie's gonna make sure it's there, and then she's gonna call Kelly and say it's there, and then we can pay bills. I don't. Jackie likes it when I simplify all that money stuff. So, there you are.
There we are.
Yep.
So do I have a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Botts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Pels. Any other discussion or questions? Any other questions? Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, so I'm just gonna go in alphabetical order. I wrote it down,
Okay.
leaving me till last. So, Member Botts, what would your vote be?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Erdman,
Yes.
Ms. Pels,
Yes.
Ms. Taubert,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
and me, yes. So, sounds like that was unanimous.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
6-0.
6-0.
There we go.
All right, thank you.
Got it.
Moving on to 8.2,
Operating levy.
operating levy.
Here we go. If you could take a look up to the screen, it's supposed to come up. There it is. Basically, the resolution is to call for an operating levy. So here we go. There's a resolution in our packet tonight, and what it says is that we have determined, the school board has determined that it is necessary for an election to authorize and approve a referendum, renewal, and addition. The current 10-year operating levy is set to expire, and question 1 on the ballot calls for a renewal of $474.26 per pupil for a period of 10 years. Question 2 will ask for an increase of $250 per pupil for a period of 10 years. A special election will be held on November 7th, 2017. The polling place will be Pipestone Area Schools Middle School, High School Gymnasium from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Question 1 will be a renewal and will not increase taxes on homestead residential, our houses, apartments, and commercial industrial properties. The current tax of $206.63 per $100,000 in market value will continue. Question 2 will increase taxes on homestead residential, apartments, and commercial industrial properties, $82.60 per $100,000 market value of that property. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them, but I'll just keep going here. So, also in there, the school board determined the necessity of the operating levy. Basically, previous elections were held in 2014 and 2015 that were not approved. The 2014 request asked for a $647 per pupil increase. That request failed by that margin, 31% yes, 69% no. 2015, the request was for $701 per pupil increase of that. That request failed, 47.52. The 2017 request is a $250 per pupil increase. This information has been reviewed by the Budget Finance Committee to determine the changes from previous years, and the committee made the recommendation for the 2-question ballot asking for a renewal and an increase. And I think it should be, in the previous years, the levy was in place. You couldn't split that out into 2 questions because it was a replace. You were basically canceling the old one and renewing it with something. But now we're coming to the end. This is the end of the 2 years, so that's why things like the board created authority of $300, those things can occur now and they couldn't before. So that's why some of these numbers look a lot different, and but the other ones were for more than this one, so.
Even with the second question?
Yes, those were, if you would have broke it out, that's what it would have been roughly. And the reason I bring that up, there's some information down here, but this current levy will expire after this school year and will result in a loss of $591,307.37 in revenue for the operation of the school district. And if that is to happen, if it does not, if we lose that revenue, it will be a reduction in program offerings, increases in class size, resulting in higher student-to-teacher ratio. And we don't say that, that's just a fact. We're not getting down and saying what those cuts will be, but if we lose that much money out of our revenue in general fund, we can't sustain that, so that would have to be some reduction. So I thought that was just important to add. That's part of why we're doing this. Also, the state of Minnesota's funding of schools does not keep pace with the annual rising costs of operation. This is why school districts across the state have operating levies in place. You know, our 2% that we're getting for next year and 2% the year after, you know, we kind of feel like, whew, you know, we're getting, but that doesn't cover inflation. I think they say 2.8% somewhere in there is what's needed to cover inflationary costs. So again, even with that increase from the state, we don't keep up. So that's why you'll see, and that's been going on, there were years when we got nothing, and we've never recovered fully from those years and loss of funding. So that's why you see virtually every school district in the state has operating levies for maintenance and operation of their school districts. Also, found those surveys of the community conducted by Springstead in 2015, and they indicated that most taxpayers would support a levy increase set at or below $114 per year for property valued at $100,000. This request being put forward is asking for $82.60. So from that survey, the committee has come with a pretty reasonable recommendation. Last month, the board said, let's go with these 2 questions, and so that's the information that we've been working from, and that's where this is where we'll be going with it. Also, I added in here operating levy increase considerations. The needs, the biggest issue that we're facing with the need for the increased operating levy is our student support. Kids are coming to us with greater needs. You know, we were considering adding a social worker, but it just isn't in the budget. We have those needs. We prioritize preschool. We're moving forward with some preschool opportunities, and you know, we found some money, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. But we are financially in a position where we can begin some of these things. These are priorities that we have to put in place. Career and technical opportunities like the construction program and the medical careers opportunities that we're pursuing. We need to keep expanding them, and this would give us money for those things. The police resource officer is in place, but there's a cost with that, and so I think operating levy dollars for these type of student supports is helpful, and also tech integration. We're moving to one-to-one, and we have to get the right people into our schools to help the teachers and the students utilize that stuff to the best that they can. So those are some other things that, why. This is from Springstead. This shows the tax impact on the varying levels. Maybe a little bit bigger. I use the $100,000 number of 206. If you notice, half of that is 103.31. So it's the same rate, and it just varies based on your property tax or property value, referendum market value. And that shows that there's a 0% increase in your taxes with the renewal. Question 2 is over here, and that's a $250 increase, and this shows the tax impact, and it's the same. It's just based on what the property value is. And I would like to add that this, for farmers, and down here, even for recreational seasonal property, which I don't know how much of that we have in Pipestone County or in our school district, but this is only for farmers on 1 acre and their buildings. It is not on their farmland. So a farmer only pays on their house on operating levies. It's not all their land. Here we have the revenue. On the revenue side, you'll see here that this renewal will give us raise that 1.49 million. That's the 1198, which is what we've had in place, which is now going to be the 474 by the voters, renewal, the 300 board created, and then the 424 local optional. The board has those. Over here is the second question, and you can see the 250 will generate an additional $300,000 a year, bringing our total revenue to $1.8 million if both questions are to pass. Yeah.
So, how does $206 in taxes per $100,000 in property value get us $1,493,990 in funding, and 8260 tax increase only provides $311,700?
Our taxes, if you recall, we pay $206 on $100,000 in property. That generates 1.4 million, almost $1.5 million, $200. Now you're gonna pay $82, and you're going to get 300,000. It comes in this state aid down here. If you recall from our truth in taxation, there's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 supports in our levies. Pipestone Area Schools is considered a fairly poverty poor district. So the state equalizes a great portion of our operating levy to about $715,000. That's why our 206, it buys a lot. We pay, of that, we pay $780,000, and the state kicks in almost half, $715,000. If you notice on this second question, there isn't any equalization at this time, so most of that increase will be paid by the taxpayers. So, that's, if you ever start looking at, 206 gets us 1.5 million, and 82 only gets us 300,000. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Equalization, you always gotta remember that. How was that, Jackie?
Perfect.
She loves that. Here's a, this is the ballot. It's actually a front and back, but I put it onto one page, so that's why maybe it looks a little bit goofy. But this is what we will be publishing and ordering and putting out. And you can see that ballot question 1, renewal of district expiring referendum revenue. And it says down here on the first question, by voting yes on this ballot, you are voting to extend an existing property tax referendum that is scheduled to expire. If you notice on the second question, by voting yes, you are voting for a property tax increase. That's one of the things too with the two questions. We can get this renewal, and hopefully people, we do a good job and they know, but people who aren't informed read these things sometimes, and then they're confused. So, hopefully we can get this moving forward, and but basically that was your resolution and a PowerPoint. You ever had that before?
No, that was
No,
great.
that's good.
nice.
Thank you.
So,
That all fit on the camera?
well, I'll be
It's probably gonna be-
I'll be
yeah.
getting this out and about. Yeah, we'll. let me-
Able to see it anyway.
Yeah, I
So for
don't-
8.2, do I have a motion to approve the resolution that he just gave us the background on the operating levy?
So moved.
Thank,
Do you want to read the resolution?
Oh, sure.
I don't know that the title was actually in
Maybe you want to just read that title, Deb? Or you want me to? We got to figure this out.
it's okay. I appreciate not having to read them.
the resolution determining the necessity of renewing an expiring referendum revenue authorization and approving a new referendum revenue authorization and calling a special election and referendum thereon.
And it goes into all the other stuff that's in there.
All right, so I asked for a motion, and thank you, Mrs. Weiss. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Taubert. Any other discussion? Any other questions? Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Member Bots.
Yes.
Member Erdman.
Yes.
Member Pals.
Yes.
Member Taubert.
Yes.
Member Weiss.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Passes unanimously with a 6-0 vote.
Bang.
There we go.
All right.
Moving on to 8.3, approval of lease with Heartland Colony. Anything that you want to say there, or just?
We do this every year with Heartland, you know, we have the school out there. We're probably gonna have to start, I guess I've been so focused on some things. The Jasper preschool, we should probably have, you know, I'm gonna have to get that for next month. And then also, we're also talking about looking for a classroom here at the Methodist Church, so we're probably gonna be leasing some space for preschools. So that's what this is, and
All right.
we just have to have everything covered, because we got our teachers out there, and we're educating the children, so this just is an agreement between us and them to use that space.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the lease with Heartland Colony? Thank you, Mrs. Pals. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Erdman. Any other discussion? Any other questions or discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the lease with Heartland Colony signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 8.4, approve membership to Minnesota School Board Association. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Erdman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Taubert. Any discussion on the membership to MSBA?
I just
Yep.
attached some information. I mean, MSBA is one of the, next to our legal counsel, well, I call them more than I call our legal counsel, but they're very trusted, they're very knowledgeable, they provided training to all of us. So they do a really good job, and they're advocates at the legislature, and so they're a really good organization, and I've found to be very helpful. As a first-year superintendent, they did a really good job, so whatever we pay for this membership is worth it.
Any other discussion?
Deb loves their policy service.
I do.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Enerson. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the membership to MSBA signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 8.5, approve extended medical leave.
Our counseling secretary, Val Carmody, is in a battle with some cancer, brain tumor, I believe. So she's asked for extended leave, and I recommend that the board grant that leave. Hopefully, she's asked for like first semester, so in January, we'll take a look. Hopefully, she's been trying to come back and talking, you know, and, well, we gotta wait for a month, and I've met with her and her sister, and I think it just get healed up, and then we'll come back. So if she can come back earlier, we'll worry about that.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve her extended medical leave?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Pals. Any other discussion?
Are we, just curious, are we gonna have anybody in that, or who is kind of taking over those duties? Just
We're gonna,
future.
Corey's gonna try and hire a
Okay.
long-term sub, so we
Okay.
get someone in there. And I think he had an idea on someone, so they should be in there pretty much in August.
Okay.
We're actually gonna have the counselors get a few extended days so they can help get everything in order for school
Okay.
starting, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
we need to have someone there to help out, so.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
That's all I
Good
want to make
question.
sure that you're covering. Okay.
Good question.
Good
Any
question.
other discussion? Any other questions? All right,
This
hearing
is-
none, although, did I hear somebody? Yes,
And this has
sorry.
gone to all the reps to make sure there's gonna be no
Yep.
bonking at it.
Right. Yeah, according to, you know, Family Medical Leave Act, we only have to give so much. She's used up her time, so that doesn't mean you have to. I mean,
Right.
the alternative is termination, which I don't think anybody's for that, so. But we do have to go through this and make sure that it's covered, so that.
Good question,
Yep.
Mr. Fox. Any other discussion? Any other questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving Val's extended medical leave signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 8.6, land purchase discussion.
I gave you what ISG is given they did some research on the property, because I know there were some questions. that we had last time and that we were gonna try to gather. Just so you just to revisit it, they're looking, I believe it's a $431,000 property assessed value that they provided, and that's what they're asking for. According to ISG, who's done a little bit of research on the property, I think it'd be good ground, looks like they feel pretty good about it. But there are some issues with the road, there's an easement there, and if you're ever gonna do anything, you have to make sure that you provide access to that neighbor. We would be responsible for that. You know, there's probably drain tile out there, and there's some things that would be there, so. I don't know if, I think we should probably just discuss if that's.
Well, it looks like there's some, these other gray lines that go out towards the school district now. I'm assuming those are prior converted farmable wetlands. When it comes to building, I don't know what impact that would have.
The other ones?
Yeah, the 4, 5, 3, and 2.
Right.
Yeah. And they go right up to our current building. I'm assuming there's probably tile running in them now to keep them dry enough.
I think I mentioned too, last meeting, you know, we were approached, this isn't something we're researching, or we were approached, it's there. I think, you know, potentially ag classroom, putting crops out there with our ag program would be one thing we could use, otherwise we probably would continue to rent it out, and unless we find something to do with it down the road. You know, it does give other options for, if we are looking at elementary additions or anything like that out here. The other side of it is, you know, Pipestone isn't, and the school district isn't growing. I don't think we're predicting any huge growth, but things can change over the next 50 years, and you just don't know, so. I guess that's where,
Well,
goes up to you guys.
as I said last time, I think, the locale is great. The timing
Right.
stinks.
Agreed.
I think that's what everybody's saying.
And I think even, you know, if you purchased it and rented out the tillable, it's still not gonna be justifiable. You couldn't generate enough income. It's not in city limits, it would have to be annexed. If we had a specific purpose and want for it right now, saying we were gonna build, just throwing this out here, that we were gonna build soccer fields and we were needing space, that'd be one thing. But I think not having a specific purpose, we already know if our levy does not pass, we're 600,000 short. It's great they came to us. The talk I've heard out there that people have talked to me is they don't wanna see us do it. They do not want us to expend the funds for it.
I've heard the opposite, but
And I've heard both, and I've heard some people just saying, you can't get land for that amount. I mean, that's a good price on land,
Right.
and yet,
Yep.
I agree, the timing is so.
the timing, right. But you know, I'd asked these people specifically, I just said, no, so, you know, we have this levy coming up, or, you know, if this is something that we go forward and do, are you gonna support the levy as well? And they, you know, they're like, absolutely, this land doesn't come across once in a lifetime, you know, and you know, they said in this little group of, and they were all farmers, said, you guys would be stupid not to do it. But that's, you know, again, that's a handful of people. I agree, the timing does suck, I guess. You know, it's
It
not
does.
ideal. You know, if it was, you know, potentially after the levy and we kind of knew where things were going and, you know, had some talk, you know, whether or not, you know, building the elementary school was, you know, coming sooner than later. You know, I don't know.
I do have to say that I appreciate the superintendent. You have a vision.
Oh,
I mean, your vision.
absolutely.
You look down the road.
Yeah.
It's just hard. I really wish we had a crystal ball, but it's hard to look down the road. And in our time right now, I don't know. I go back and
No,
forth.
I know.
The land is a great price and.
But it's a great location.
And it's a great
Yeah.
location. There's a lot of benefits to it, and yet, I don't know. Yeah, I've heard both. I've heard
Yeah.
somebody say, you're foolish if you don't, you're foolish if you do, so.
Yeah.
Ma.
I mean, how much rent, I mean, if you rent it out, do we know how much it would generate, how much income would you get off a year?
Tennis courts.
I mean, I don't know what it,
I don't know what.
Jeff, do you know, I
Do you?
mean, what income as far as rent, could we get off it per year? I mean,
$200 an acre.
I would say that's what I was thinking,
200
200?
would be
That's what I was wondering too.
right now.
And there's how many acres of it?
43 is still.
43.
And I don't know who the current, you know, tenant is, if, you know, if they would even continue that or not.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I don't, you know, that's something that you'd have to check into, I guess, too.
Yeah, and unless prices recover considerably, I mean, it's gonna continue to drop for cash rent.
Right.
Is there that possibility that we can go to them and say, this is what we're willing to offer you, and if not, then we're done? If it's even lower than this, I don't know.
Suppose you can do
Whatever
whatever
you
you
guys
want. All they
want.
can say is no, I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Were they open to negotiating, or did they kind of say?
You know, when I'm sorry, I interrupted. but,
It's okay.
You know, I asked, because I think that was one of the first questions was as well, is it open to negotiation? And they said, no, we're just making this offer available. We want the market value, or what the appraised value is. And if we don't get that from you guys, then it's gonna go up for sale, but it'll be at a land auction, which
So you
I don't know how
Could be
schools
cheaper.
do that.
I don't know how that would work for a school. Because you'd have to, well, I suppose you could vote up to a certain amount that you'd pay and then.
And it's public, so.
And
everybody
it's
knows.
public, everybody knows, that's true, that's
Unless-
true.
Unless that's one you can go into closed session and.
Yeah, that's
say,
true. You
This
would-
is what the secret amount is.
Yeah, true, that's true.
Right.
I don't know.
When do we have to make the decision? I mean, could this, on the agenda, just says discussion. When does the actual decision?
Well, they
happen?
wanted to know by early August, so basically in my conversation, I said that it was on our agenda tonight. We'd make a decision, yea or nay, and I'd let her know tomorrow morning.
Okay. It takes a big.
And I think, I mean, I understand where you guys, it's, you know, either way is the right answer. I mean, if you do it, you can justify that. If you say no, justify that too, because you weren't out there shopping anyway.
Right.
It's-
No, I too have heard both sides, I mean, I've heard people say it's a great opportunity, and I've heard people say, I don't know if we should do that at this time. But I just feel like, part of me says, are we gonna kick ourselves in 2 years when we wanna build elementary school and then we can't find land?
That we have land to build on.
Yeah,
correct? We've had-
yeah. I
there-
think
there
we
was a
have
plan
enough
before this
Oh,
was
we
built
do
for
know.
the
We have
entire
enough.
Facility.
We have enough space out
Mhm.
here.
To put in
to
elementary
do-
already.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've got
Oh,
plenty of
then-
acres, because they count in
Yeah.
Polson Field. Because of the 99-year lease with the city, we've got those acres are all accounted for. I think you need to
Mhm.
have 20 acres, and I think we've got that easily out
Mhm.
here.
Oh, so we
for
do
that.
have enough room for it?
Yeah, it isn't that we
Okay.
would have to get anything in the future. I don't see, it's just.
That
one of
makes
those.
my decision easier then.
Right. The only thing having that would be
More space.
design
Design-wise.
issues.
More
space.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you're gonna run
Which
into.
that's the
issues
direction I
with-
want the school to go, but that's just
Yeah.
me.
There
and
still
not
might be
back
enough
behind,
room, I don't know.
but-
Can always go up.
True, you can, yes, you can.
We're gonna lose a lot of parking. But I get it.
That's okay. You can
I'll
have
support
your-
whatever's decided.
And you can still vote for how you feel. and
Right,
that's okay.
yep, I
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
I know.
We all can vote for how we feel and then support each other with whatever. It's one of those things that down the road, somebody's going, well, you were foolish not to do it. Well, you
Yeah.
foolish that you, I know.
I know, what do you
Yeah.
do?
I know.
It's
both
tough.
ways.
Yeah,
Tough call.
it is. So you want a motion on this?
Well,
Yes.
if they
If
can't
you're
get
gonna-
one, if there is no
if he's gotta
motion,
make a-
then there's nothing, so
All right,
it
if
can
you're
go
gonna-
either way.
I guess, yes. Does anyone want to make a motion on whether to accept it to go forward or to not purchase the land?
I will make a motion
Thank you.
not to purchase the land.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Pels and Mr. Botts. Any other discussion on the land purchase? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of not purchasing the land signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Nope, I voted the other way.
Motion carries. All right, thank you. 8.7, approve income contract with Midwest Community and Technical College.
This is for the construction trades course and the teacher that our kids will have, so we're paying a portion of that to get that program started.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve that income contract with Midwest?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Pels, and thank you, Mr. Erdman, for the second? Was that- Okay. Any other discussion on the contract with Midwest? Any other discussion?
They start,
Okay.
it becomes effective August 14th, which is that the beginning of their school year? Or how's,
I would say like our teachers start in August with in-service, and I'm sure they've got contracted for some pre-work, and then when their start, I'm not 100%.
I'm guessing a lot
Okay.
of technical, a
But
lot
then
of
it-
colleges start that.
We start the
second week.
21st, or that
and
Monday.
it
Yeah.
also has an expiration date of May 11th.
Okay.
So, the kids that are out there, if this program is done at that point in time, what do they do for the last 3 weeks of school?
It's kind of like our dual enrolled PSEO kids that are maybe at Southwest State, and they're done they're just done.
Mhm.
So they've completed their term and earned their credits, and they just have a hole in their schedule. It is supposed to be for juniors and seniors, so it's,
Mhm.
you know,
Which a senior is fine.
Yeah.
They're ending their education career here, so, but a junior that isn't,
And then your time management.
well, if their time
Yeah.
management, then are they allowed out of the building again for that time period, or are they required to be in the building here for that time period?
I would guess that they weren't assigned here, so, and it's probably gonna be, I don't know what time of day this is going to be, I would guess in the morning, but we'll have to see what the schedules work out, but we most certainly will assign them to a study hall if they need, but I can't assign them to any classes. And the other way would be is then they, you know, the understanding was is, if it's in the morning, you don't come till your first class, which might be second period, so. Just one of those things that kinda happens that way. We've learned to be flexible with PSEO kids too, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Any other discussion? Because we motioned in second. Any other discussion? All right, those in favor of approving the contract with Midwest Community and Technical College signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 8.8, approve food service agreement with Taher.
We have I think it was a 2 or 3 year contract with Taher last year that we renew every year, so this is the renewal. Checked over it, I think we did have one question on some things, but I think everything for the most part's in order. Things seem to go pretty well this year with Taher. Few growing pains, but there's always when there's some type of change, but overall, thought everything went pretty well.
Any questions on that before we make the motion? With Taher? All right, do I have a motion to approve the food service agreement with them?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Botts. Was that you, Jen? Okay, the two guys are sitting there. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Erdman. Any other discussion? Any other discussion?
I don't know if this has been, last year there was some I'd heard some issues with, people in their accounts and things like that, thinking that there was issues with that. Has that all kind of been resolved? I haven't heard, I mean, where they thought there was more coming out and they were watching things and there was more coming out than was supposed to be coming out for their student. I know that there was a couple issues. I didn't know if those have been resolved or, I mean, or, you know, going forward, if we had any more problems or not.
I took quite a few phone calls because I have the system on my computer as well where I could look up. And I had a lot of people call just to check on things, and
Seemed fine.
in all honesty, I think the calls were a lot less this year
Good.
versus what they were the year before.
Good.
So, in my feeling, I guess, and my experience with it this year, there were questions, of course.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
there always is.
Will be, yeah.
You know, but I think it was probably
Better.
not too bad, yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the food service agreement with Taher Incorporated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to 8.9, resolution approving school district number 2689 long-term facility maintenance 10-year plan.
What is it, by July 30th, we have to submit our long-term facility maintenance plan. It's a 10-year plan to the state. Having this plan in allows us to generate funds to maintain our facilities. We've contracted with ISG to do a very thorough analysis of our facilities and our grounds. That plan will be coming in September and October, but we renew this every year. So once that plan, we'll be looking through there, and we'll have a very thorough plan. This was kind of put together by Cal over the years. He had it last year. We just updated it. These are some things that we know about. We've got them in here. We will do what we can with that, but this plan can be adjusted, but currently this is what we've got. So we need to approve this and get this sent into the state. Jackie, I don't know if you want to add anything? No, she just likes to be approved so she can, you're the one who sends it in, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And her computer works now, so she can do all that stuff.
Any questions on that, or conversations, or discussion that you want to ask? Does someone have
Just
to?
what's the status of the stuff that they were using the funds for this past year?
We
Like,
did a
we're
lot
gonna
of.
get new, hand dryers and,
Yep.
did we get little dividers?
Those were
up on
things
the
that were
urinal?
in
I mean, I don't
our-
know, I haven't been in any of the bathrooms.
Those were things that were on our summer work lists, and
Okay.
we had a number of things. But we were still about, I think we were about $90,000 to $100,000 under what our projections were, so that goes into like a fund balance in LTFM.
Okay.
But yeah, all those projects we've been working on, and
Okay, just
they're
curious.
supposed to be ready for school.
Okay, well, I'm like, I didn't know
They
if
were-
doors got on at the, the bathrooms at the football field. I mean, that season's around, and
I know.
I'm just trying to think of the things that we kind of had talked about, and.
They were on our
We
list.
haven't- I
and
know.
You guys approved them, so.
Right.
If they aren't done, then you get to yell at me.
The women's bathroom was
I'm not
done
expecting
last time I was
necessarily
in.
you. I mean, when we were on the, maintenance committee, I mean, it,
Yeah.
I did notice that. The women's bathroom was not done last time I was in there yet, so.
No,
Okay.
yeah, I don't
It
know
needs
what
to
the
be done.
timelines, but they will be.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
was part
Yeah.
of
Just
the,
that- just
we had
curious.
drinking fountains and, we had a
Yes.
bunch of
Yep,
little
yep,
things that you
yep.
guys approved. I could pull that up, but that was
Yeah.
what we approved
Yep.
for all
I
those.
was just curious, the status of how all that
Where it is.
Should
was
be,
progressing.
they're working on it and
Just
getting
make sure
things
to
done.
keep Cal on his toes.
I know.
Complete honesty here, I found a mistake on this.
Oh.
So it's not any big deal, I can change the spreadsheet. But if you look at this one, the expense one, that one. You see down there where it says health and safety projects costing greater than 100,000, see there's numbers down there? Look at the 7,500,
366.
go all the way down.
Oh, yeah.
Those should not be there. Those should
Oh,
all be
okay.
zero. It doesn't change it that much. If you go all the way over to the right, there's also one. See that 5,000, that shouldn't be there either.
Oh,
So those should all be zeros, and I will change it before I send it in, I just thought I'd point it out to you before you.
You sure?
What's that?
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
All right, so do we have to have the resolution read
Actually, you
before?
read it.
Oh, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Approving school district number 16, long-term facility
Read
maintenance tent.
exactly what it said, so.
Perfect. So do I have a motion to approve that? So, thank you, Mrs., I almost said Stats, sorry, Tammy, Mrs. Stoddard. And thank you for the second, Mrs. Weiss. Any other discussion on 8.9? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All right, roll call. Member Bots?
Yes.
Member Erdman?
Yes.
Member Pals?
Yes.
Member Taubert?
Yes.
Member Weiss?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion passes unanimously, 6-0 vote. 8.10, surplus technology equipment in addition. Anything that you want to mention?
These are all outdated technology we won't be using. It's our old phone system. Some different things up here on them. Josh put them out. They need to go. I don't want to store them.
Okay.
Because they just end up getting put out in the shed, and I don't think they're gonna last very long out there, so if he can get anything for him, he'll, with the district, he'll sell them for the district. He won't get the money.
At least that's on.
We're just not going to use these anymore.
All right, so do I have a motion to surplus the technology
Some
equipment?
screens?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Computer
Second.
screens too, or no?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Pals, and thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Botts.
oh, hold on, I need
Yeah,
your screen.
sorry.
No, nothing, just checking.
Okay.
It's just hard to hear, so. All right, so Mrs. Pals motioned and Mr. Botts seconded.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other discussion on the surplus? Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor of surplusing the technology equipment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve policies. We're going to do 401, 402, 410, 414, 415, 506, 511, 514, and 522 all together in one motion. Do you have
Right.
anything that you'd like to say?
401, 402, and 522 are policies that need to be updated due to the civil rights audit that we had done this past year at the middle school, high school. We've put these things in place, and when you approve them, I can send them into MDE and say, see, they're done. The other ones, we went through, we reviewed, and as a policy committee, and they recommended that we give these just one reading and move them through, because they're policies that we need to have, and the updates were not significant enough that we should have two readings, so,
Thank you.
yep.
So do I have a motion to approve policy 401 down to 522?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Erdman. Do I have a second?
You going 522?
401, 402, 410, 414, 415, 506, 511, 514, 522.
Policy, sorry.
No, that's okay. So thank you, Mr. Erdman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Botts. Any other discussion on those policies? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Thank you to the policy committee. All right, all those approving those policies signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for that work. Moving on to 8.20, first reading of policy 601.
Well, I would recommend you go 601, 603, 612.1, and 616.
Okay, the first reading of all of those.
Yes, and the policy committee went through these, and basically, I need to sit down with the admin team, and we need to go through, review these policies, and if there's anything that we need to update, we'll update, and then that'll be in there for the next reading and be ready for approval. These are, if I'm not
Mandatory.
mistaken, these are mandatory policies the school district needs to have,
And they've never been.
and we don't have them.
We don't have
So we're
them.
putting in some policies that we're supposed to have in place here. I will just say, the curriculum, and the curriculum ones are part of our accountability and making sure that we're delivering the state standards. So we need to go through that in our assessments. Policy 612.1 is really about Title I, parent involvement. So Ms. Bartman, I'm sure we do it, but I just gotta have her give it her okay. And the same thing with the district system accountability. It has to do with our world's best workforce plan, and a lot of that is in there. We're doing it, but we just don't have that policy, so we just want to review that. So that's why we recommend, this was the first reading, and then we'll have the second reading with any updates that we feel need to be in there prior to your approval next month. So, that's it, right?
Questions? Yes,
Okay.
move on, unless someone else wants to add to that, or question, or,
Marcy,
okay.
Marcy was there.
It's kind of the
Thank
same
you,
with that
policy people.
next policy, 721. It was one that was developed, I believe, last year, and they made it a mandatory policy, but it was never passed, so,
Okay.
And
but
we-
that has to do with the business aspect,
Well, we
I believe.
accept grants,
Yeah.
federal, this is really about federal grants, and you should have this policy in place. Jackie loves federal grants, federal revenue. There's no hoops at all. This is about an 18-page policy of just what you need to have in place.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve policy 721, uniform grant guidance policy regarding federal revenue resources?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Pals. Do I have a second?
Second.
I heard Jeff.
Thank you.
Tammy.
Thank you,
That's
Mr. Potts.
Take either one.
All right, thank you, Mr. Potts. Any other discussion on approving policy 721? Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving policy 721 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oops, those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Whoopsie, got a little ahead of myself there. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss, thank you, Mrs. Pals. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, motion carries.
A little 5-minute break
Yes, please.
before the work session?
Yes, please. Whoop-da. I should have ordered in Subway sandwich.
Didn't you eat before?
I would have paid for it. You know what?
All right, 1 hour, that ain't bad.
Under, not with all that information that was on there. It's pretty good, I think.
It was, when I first seen it, I'm like, ooh.
Hey,
It's gonna be long.
make decisions, right?
That's right.
Migrated about 60%, so I'm not going to.
Make them and stick with them.
Okay.
You made the right decision either way on that land.
I know, it's hard. No, it's a hard call. It really is. But I so agree with you.
I get nervous about I mean,
Did not, want to
be active,
jeopardize.
it would
Can
be
they ask
nervous.
us like next work?
I get nervous though.
I was on that.
Ask us after we build
The levy.
the new building.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
The new elementary building?
I will call her tomorrow and I'll tell her what the reservation was. We really felt like it was
Nice
great.
they were at a
Really
meeting.
appreciated that.
No, it was just I didn't want to think too much about what I wanted to put on.
Oh, you look like you were just at a meeting or something. You're very,
No, it was called Hop Off the Mower at 4:20, get in the shower.
all right.
Oh, I'm probably better go to the bathroom.
Probably will.
Okay, should we discuss then after this next part? Do you guys have time to
Yeah.
stay?
We didn't post for 72 hours.
Right. So is the camera off?
I'm not sure.
May I go turn it off? Because it's not on during our work session, or is it?
Yeah, we've done it.
So how was your band trip?
It was good. Other than getting sick, I was the first one.